Welcome to the Badger Den. Well, we all know what popped off over the weekend. There's a few things that are probably not being covered. As in my prior videos, I'm always covering something that generally leads into what other people are pointing out. Like, as it's coming out more and more, it's looking like regime change. It's beginning to look a lot like regime change. And let's dive into it. Someone didn't wear their brown pants over the weekend. No, they didn't. The Ayatollah Khamenei has drafted a short list of successors in case Israel targets him next. Yeah, either he needs to step down or he will not see the end of the month, probably, or at least the next 2 weeks. The Iranian supreme leader has spent much of the last couple of weeks in hiding as Israeli forces systematically targeted nuclear facilities, nuclear scientists, and military leaders, and as the New York Times reported on Saturday, those targeted strikes have Khamenei worried that he could be on the list next. Khamenei's short list circumvents the typical process for selecting a successor, during which clerics also submit names for consideration. The priority is the preservation of the state. It is all calculative and pragmatic. Khamenei did not put his son, Mojtaba, on the list despite most believing that he is a frontrunner of the position. Oh, really? Why do you think he didn't put his own son on the list? Does he not know that if that list is made public like he's made it, would put then those people specifically on Mossad's top wanted target list? He's protecting his son and ensuring his son takes over the kingdom. He's a shrewd man. He's just setting up these other people to get shot so his son inherits the kingdom. News came just hours before President Donald Trump announced that the American military successfully executed strikes on 3 major nuclear targets. We're going to go into each of those targets, and we're not going to cover specifically what was hit. We're going to cover the after effects. So these are the people that have been taken out. Israel's essentially set them back a decade in military intelligence and nuclear physicists backlog. Like essentially, if you want to shorten your life, you join the military in Iran or you become a nuclear physicist. You join one of those two and pop goes the weasel. 3 specific places were targeted. Fordo was the big one. 7 B-2 bombers were sent over, and there's a bit of confusion as far as where those bombers blew stuff up. Depending on who you look at, they say different things. My bet is each of these got 2 bombs, the bunker busters, the MOPs. These MOPs are very unique. We're the only ones in the world that have them. When they are dropped, they go at least 200 feet deep. Guess how far Fordo is into the ground? 200 feet deep. I believe it's 260. And it's estimated from external scientists, weapons specialists looking at the MOPs that they dive down at least 200 feet deep. So it sounds like that these bombs were specifically designed to target Fordo almost, or at least encapsulated bunkers. And these munitions are huge. They're tons and tons of pounds. Tons of pounds? Tons of tons? I believe they're 15,000 pounds or 30,000 pounds. I think each one is 15,000 pounds. And then both dropped, of course, is 30. So that's 15 tons. That's insane. Just the size of that, trying to get over through that. So they sent 2 over. Fordo has 2 entrances on either side of a mountain. The theory goes is that each one of those entrances were hit to completely destroy the ability to get into them. And then another couple munitions or 4 munitions were then dropped on those. So that would take over essentially 4 of those, 5 of those, and then the remaining 2 bombers would hit Nance and Isfahan, giving them a full payload each. Hence, Trump's full payload was delivered. However, it has also been reported that about 30 cruise missiles, 20 to 30 cruise missiles were shot. Tomahawk cruise missiles were shot from our ships and potentially hit Isfahan. Potentially, who knows? The point is that a lot of munitions and a lot of bombs laid waste to these sites. Specifically bombs that were designed to hit these type of sites. I watched both Trump's press briefer and Hegseth's briefer yesterday. Three key points were the objectives were hit, and they were to stop Iran's enrichment. Trump specifically threatened future attacks, alluding to additionally exposed areas that could be hit. I mean, if they hit the most encapsulated bunkers on Earth potentially, it means that Khamenei knows that he could be hit at any point in time. I got a feeling that's what they're saying, is that he could be easily hit. And Trump, of course, confirmed that working with Israel, which was when the first shots were popped off by Israel, I concluded that more than likely we were helping them. And then it came out that we were potentially providing munitions, which we were. We were also helping shooting down the missiles that were coming over from Iran. And essentially, Trump gave them the nod, wink, wink. We're ready to go as soon as the 60-day cutoff for negotiations was met. Back to my point about regime change. Trump made it clear, if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? And I've been saying that from the beginning. This is all about regime change, because the Ayatollah will not give up on developing nukes. Now, I always like to show a caveat and look at other perspectives. This is from a Russian foreign minister who is now retired, but of course probably still is buddy-buddy with the Kremlin. And this is what he said. And I think there's some key points that clearly show that this is a critical misstep by the world as far as how the left's looking at it and some people on the right. Again, I do not believe Trump is getting us into the war. Specifically, Hexeths came out yesterday and stated this was a strategic attack to damage the Iranian infrastructure and stop missile production, stop nuclear fissile material production. This was not an escalation. This was not a continuation or engagement. This is purely to take out those specific bunkers that were producing fissile material, and then stepping back and saying, okay, we've done our 1-2 punch. We're going to leave you alone. All we wanted was to take out the nuclear production capabilities. Critical infrastructure of the nuclear fuel cycle appears to have been unaffected or sustained only minor damage. Again, this is a Russian propagandist, so whatever he says is probably the reverse. And given that these bombs were specifically designed to hit these hardened targets, he's probably lying his pants off and the missiles completely obliterated. There are two insiders that came out from this, specifically speaking to, I can't remember if it was Reuters or the Times, and they acknowledged that the Fordo site is gone. It does not exist. There's nothing left. So this guy is purely smoking his own ganja here, and he's making stuff up. Because he's got no intelligence. Supposedly he's not connected to the Kremlin, unless the Kremlin's just feeding him talking points that he wants to say to the world. Which of those two is more likely? Yeah, the talking points. The enrichment will continue, blah, 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 if you will continue. Yeah, if there's not regime change. A number of countries are ready to supply Iran with their own nuclear warheads. If that were true, it would have already happened. And again, we have satellites that track these nuclear warheads because they give off signatures, because guess what? They're irradiated. They are giving off radiation. We can track them via satellites. Do you really want to be the country that gives Iran a bomb? No. That's why nobody wanted to give Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas a bomb unless it was Iran. Because Iran knew that if they gave it to them, they would use it. Just like if somebody gives a gun to Iran, they're going to probably use it. Who wants to be that person that enabled Iran and piss off Israel and the U.S.? Yeah, highly unlikely. Everybody's counting their fingers and toes right now and being like, yeah, we don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. Israel's under attack, explosion around the country, people are panicking. They were. Things are settling down now. The missile strikes are continuing. Initially, the missile strikes were over 200 at one point in the beginning. Now the missile strikes coming from Iran are as little as 15 to 40. So Iran's capabilities are continuing to dwindle and tick down. So again, it's really showing the dichotomy between what's really happening and the talking points that the left and the propagandists are trying to push. Be aware of that. The U.S. is now entangled in a new conflict with prospects of ground operation looming on the horizon. Again, this is complete opposition and what the party and what the U.S. wants. So this is actually giving me encouragement that Trump sees this and he will not put boots on the ground. If he does, I do strongly believe that this is going to be a significant blow dealt to Trump's popularity. And I think he knows that. Iran's political regime has survived and all likelihood will come out stronger. Really? You're going to go with that? You're really going to go with that? He's naming a short list. He left his son on it. You don't think that his son's probably going to be on the target list too, even though his son's buddy-buddy with him? Yeah, really doesn't sound good. The people are rallying around the country's spiritual leader, including those who were previously indifferent or opposed to it. That's the only one that I can give some credibility to, because in times of strife, you're going to cling to a nationalistic spiritual leader, and that's going to be your crux because the military's taken out. All you've got left is the Ayatollah. I think that's part of the reason why Trump is really pushing the Ayatollah to step down. It's much better if the Ayatollah steps down unless he becomes a martyr, and the Ayatollah would rather become a martyr. Trump knows this. I think he's wisened up and seen that he's trying to prevent the Ayatollah from becoming a martyr, and Israel just doesn't care. They don't see the big picture. They're a pit bull. They just want to tear him up. I'm hoping the Ayatollah steps down. Otherwise, yeah, he could become a martyr. Donald Trump, once held the president of peace, is now pushed into another war. Again, this is more propaganda that I believe coming from Russia that just is icing on the cake that Trump is not going to put boots on the ground. Vast majority of countries in the world oppose actions of Israel and the U.S. That's entirely true, but I wouldn't say vast because most of the Middle East is not like Iran. Iran is a proxy country for terrorism, and they have meddled in other countries throughout the Middle East. They are the most hated country in the Middle East next to Israel. Of course, relations with Israel are beginning to even out thanks to the Abraham Accords. So before the Abraham Accords, maybe after the Abraham Accords, more than likely Iran's #1 top hated country. So it's not realistic that they're going to be missed. And it's not really realistic that everybody hates what's been happening, especially given most countries in the Middle East really hate Iran. At this rate, Trump can forget about the Nobel Peace Prize, even with how rigged it has become. Again, it's been rigged. So in actuality, given Obama got it from literally going and sucking on a straw, Trump with the Abraham Accords didn't get it. So, I mean, yeah, whoop-de-doo. Nice propaganda there, guy. Looks good. So this is really one of the few things that's given me a lot of hope and confirmation that Trump is not going to put boots in the ground when you have a Russian asset, ex-foreign ministry, basically stating the opposite of everything that's happening in the world. It really gives me a little bit more credence to the fact that Trump will probably not put boots on the ground, which is fantastic to see and hear. So, we've got more, of course, Floyd's popping up. You've probably heard where the leftists in Philadelphia pretty much turned up the heat, and in LA, both of them attacking ICE and preventing ICE from actually taking criminals. One of them was a murder, multiple were rapists, and prevent them from being extradited and kicked out of the country by ICE. And this is continuing. This is now a child rapist they'll help get away. Again, if you are part of the Democratic Party and you are helping PDFs get away, you have no soul. Left-wing activists on Friday allegedly tipped off an illegal alien who's a convicted child PDFist, helping him escape from landing in the U.S. ICE enforcement custody. Criminal alien from El Salvador is convicted of wanting for child rape in Italy. During our surveillance of Leon, members of Colorado Rapid Response arrived on scene and alerted him to law enforcement's presence, which allowed him to escape. Remember how the mayor of Boston continued to demonize ICE when they have been targeted. They are being targeted with violence on ICE up 500%. And she compared them to Nazis. She compared them to Nazis because they cover their face. Why are they covering their face? Because of people like Colorado Rapid Response who are doxing and attacking these people. They are protecting pedophiles. That's the side of history you want to be on, leftist? That's the side of history you want to be on, liberal? Think about it. Colorado Rapid Response is a far-left anti-ICE organization that's been responding to immigration raids. The group's website says the organization is committed to responding to raids, deportation, and any ICE activity happening across the state in our communities. Witness ICE activity, or if you want to document an experience with ICE, they have a hotline for you. They monitor ICE and police collaboration, detect patterns that can guide our legislative efforts, builds a robust statewide network of people resisting deportations in their communities, aka helping criminals. This is what you leftists, liberals, Democrats have turned to. You are helping illegal criminals who are hurting society. And this is your number one PDF, it's love interest. If you have seen this guy anywhere, please report him to ICE. Right here. Here's your number. Get that PDFist behind bars. Get him in the wood chipper, because that's where that PDFist belong, in wood chippers. MK Ultra says what? If you don't know what MK Ultra is, fine. Or you think it's a little kooky, fine. But look up Project Mockingbird. Project Mockingbird was legitimate. It is still ongoing, and Obama signed off on it. So please check up on MK Ultra and Project Mockingbird. So the assassin supposedly sent a letter to the FBI. The governor, Tim Walz, wanted him to assassinate Amy Klobuchar, according to a bombshell report from the Minnesota Star Tribune. Walz did not deny the allegation when commenting on the report. I mean, what can you say? He's got a manifesto. They won't release the manifesto. The manifesto has a bunch of ramblings in it. And now this report that indeed there was a letter sent to the FBI stating that he has to take out Amy Klobuchar so Walz can become the next senator of Minnesota. Wow. And you wonder why they're hiding stuff. However, having said that, it does look like that he's gone a bit insane and kooky. And isn't that weird? So the letter is the clearest evidence yet of Bolter's mindset after the targeted violence against Minnesota politicians last week. Again, he killed two. One, a sitting Democrat House representative that was the linchpin vote in preventing illegals from getting Medicaid, which is fantastic. Good on her. And she cried when she did it, knowing she put a target on her back. That woman sacrificed essentially her life at this point to do the right thing. That's something you don't see much from the left. And it's incoherent and 1.5 page long, confusing, hard to read. According to two people familiar with the letter's contents, includes Bolter alleging he had been trained by U.S. military off the books, and that Walz, who is not running for Senate, had asked him to kill Klobuchar and others. Now, pointing out a couple things here. The Pennsylvania shooter in Butler also was trained by military. He was at D.C. at one of the FBI training shooting ranges. Why would he be there with the FBI at one of the ranges that's specifically used by the FBI? A little odd. So while this madman who killed two people, tried to kill two others and potentially more, well, he was a father of 5. So he just up and is like, man, I'm not getting my NGO checks anymore. I'm not getting my money from the Dems anymore. I'm just going to go nuts and start killing people. Or was he put on some sort of crazy amount of pressure, cracked, and he was a sleeper? Who knows? But it is a little wild, given that there were a lot of odd things between the Butler, Pennsylvania shooter and Bolter. Vance Bolter. Just a little weird, where they came from seemingly out of nowhere, cracked. One of them claims that he trained with military off the books. The other one's GPS data shows that he was at a shooting range that was frequented essentially by the Secret Service and the FBI. Just things aren't adding up. And again, we don't know the full story coming out of Butler, Pennsylvania. Just a lot of questions we need to ask. Instead of denying the allegation, a Walz spokesman reportedly gave a rambling non-answer. This tragedy continues to deeply disturb all Minnesotans. Governor Walz is grateful to law enforcement who apprehended the shooter, and he's grateful to the prosecutors who ensured justice is served swiftly. So, a little odd things going on there. Let's recap this. So, it still looks like that we're bombing Iran and getting out and not getting into anything. However, regime change is definitely on the table. I've been saying that. I do believe that is on the table, and we'll probably eventually see that. I think Trump is playing his last card, which is, Khamenei, get up here, sign the papers, step down so you're not a martyr. Khamenei, he's willing to die for it. He wants to be a martyr. ICE is under attack. The leftists are purely supporting illegals, criminals, and PDFists, which is insane. Killing a child, hurting a child, raping a child is the worst thing that you can do. And these people are protecting those type of people. You guys get out of the Democratic Party. If you're part of the Democratic Party still after this, you have no soul. And then finally, what in the world is happening with these shootings from the government related to NGOs and people targeting the president? There is something going on there that we really need to dig into, and I hope Patel gets to the bottom of it. Well, guys, welcome to the Badger Den. Signing off for now. Mally out.